Hello, hello. Welcome to Actors Anonymous Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Quiche. Co-hosting with me and mouthing something to me and during the intro is Mr. Jordan Birthbank. Jordan Birthbank is on the show.
No, don't say that. That sounds like a sperm. Please don't.
No, what were you saying?
That would drive me crazy. Like having headphones over my hair, over my ears, that would drive me nuts.
Well, I can handle it. That's okay. I like your shirt this week.
Thank you. This week.
We'll make it seem like we record these week after week. Oh, man. I am really excited to have writer, teacher, actor, director, producer, wearer of many hats, Mr. Gary Marks, a.k.a. acting guru. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
I love saying Sam Quiche. I say it when you're not... You're in my class right now, but I say it when you're not even in class. Just repeating it to myself. Sam Quiche. It's such a great acting name.
Well,
As is Jordan Birthbank, by the way.
I did not legally change my name, just so everyone knows.
That was your given name, Jordan Birthbank?
Yes.
He's part of the
Are you part of the Burbank family?
Yeah.
Part of the
Really?
So
you're owned by Bob Hope, literally.
Right? Yes, legally, I'm not allowed to talk about that.
Which, shout out to Bob Hope for having the best airport in the Los Angeles area.
Bob does have a good airport. Yeah.
I love that airport. I know this is a very weird thing to talk about, but
you get out. I love going there because they treat me so nicely because of my last name.
I'm sure they do. Oh, Mr. Burbank, come right this way. You don't need to go through security.
Yeah.
I'm currently in your audition technique class,
Mm-hmm.
Gary,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just telling you out in the waiting room area, your technique with status.
Uh-huh.
I absolutely love because it's something I never thought about. And the exercise we did with the cards, I don't want to give too much away on the show.
You can give it away. It's not proprietary. Actually, it was taught to me by Max Stafford Clark, who was artistic director of the Royal Court Theatre in London, and I had never before considered looking at breaking down a character in that way. He passed out playing cards, ace through 10, and you were to take one and behave according to the number of the card would dictate what your status is in the society of the play or the TV show or the movie. So if you were a 10, you'd behave like a 10, and if you were a 1, you'd behave like a 1, a lowly person of that society. And it's a way of looking at your character that I had never before come upon. And I think it's really useful, especially when you have to break down a script quickly.
Yes.
To say, what is my status and how do I fit into this world?
For me, it's the same thing. When you said it, I was like, oh, whoa, this is really helpful, especially when I have an audition and there's 4 other people I'm talking to in the room. And I'm like, okay, I got to make this really clear, not just for myself, but also for the director, producer, or the CD in the room, so they know who the hell I'm talking to in the room.
Yeah, simply by assigning each character a different number,
right?
It's a very quick way to, to the person to your left. If the person to your left is a 1, then you're speaking to them like they're a loser, and the person to the middle is a 5. You're speaking to them like that. You could that they're good, but you could give or take. Speaking to them, and the person on your right is a 10. Well, you really want to talk to that person. And as you're switching, just to remember those numbers, there's a difference. And as in real life, when we don't have the same relationship with everybody we talk to, and it's the same in creating a character for stage or screen.
Now, do you apply this at all to writing sometimes?
Well, you always apply it to writing because you're creating the whole world that you guys will perform. So yes, every character, of course, every character has a different status.
Right.
Currently I'm writing a feature about a boy band, and all boy band members are not created equal. Justin Timberlake and Lance Bass have different statuses in NSYNC. So.
Oh, it's about NSYNC.
No.
Those are the example you were giving.
Yeah, that's the example. If I said the characters' names, you wouldn't know who they are because the band's fictional.
Gotcha.
Although I will tell you this, that we originally sold the concept as a TV show, and it was a hybrid reality show. So the band was fake, but everything they did was real. So they'd really try to make a comeback, and they'd really try to, talk to A&R guys. And when we went in to pitch the show, we had created a website and a real album cover and a real song, which we wrote and recorded. And we would start to pitch to agents, and they would go, "Yeah, I remember those guys." And then we had to embarrassingly tell them that they couldn't remember them because they didn't actually exist.
Wow.
So.
Did you see on Netflix the Backstreet Boys documentary?
I actually the Backstreet Boys manager is one of the people that we've talked to about the script, and so I haven't watched it yet, but I know about it, and I'm very excited to see it.
It's good. I was watching this with a female friend on a Netflix and chill session, and I'm kidding. I'm kidding, totally kidding. No, but I was watching it with a female friend, and I was like, I don't know about this. Like, it's the Backstreet Boys. I don't really want to watch a documentary on the Backstreet Boys. And then we watched it, and I was like, oh, this is actually really amazing how their lives just turned. And the journey they've gone through. And as artists, as human beings, is just incredible. So I'm curious. I want to hear what you think about it after you watch it.
Well, Backstreet actually has a really kind of amazing history, how they came about. I don't know if they covered it in the documentary, but so one of my all-time favorite films is The Natural, and The Natural was taken from Bernard Malamud novel that used the mythology surrounding baseball, and it transported it into this fictional story. But a lot of the things that happen in The Natural were taken from real life events. For example, spoiler alert, Robert Redford's character is shot by a woman in black. And around the turn of the century, there was a woman going around shooting professional athletes. And it's something that Malamud took and appropriated to this novel. And when we went to write this boy band movie, we really studied it's hard to say this with a straight face, but we really studied the history of boy bands. And Backstreet, for example, was created by Lou Pearlman, who was, at the time that Backstreet came about, Lou Pearlman leased airplanes for private parties. And there were these 5 guys who were constantly leasing his airplane, 5 young guys, like 15 to 19 years old. And he thought, what the hell, these guys, how are these guys affording airplanes? So he investigated it. It was New Kids on the Block. So Lou Pearlman said to himself, I got to get myself a boy band. And he formed Backstreet Boys. And they became huge. And then the sixth the guy who didn't make the band, he still wanted that experience. So he went and found 4 other guys. They're called NSYNC. And then he went back to Lou Pearlman and he managed both those bands.
That's crazy.
And now he's in jail.
Oh, I did not know that part.
Yeah, there you go.
Tax evasion?
That tax evasion is kind of the guise they give for someone who's molested boys.
Oh.
So that's
gotcha.
evidently that's evidently the I don't know that for a fact. So
Right.
I don't want to be
alleged.
I don't want to be
Yeah.
sued.
No.
But that's apparently the lowdown on
Interesting.
Lou Pearlman. But
Yeah.
Actually, one more fun fact about that. But when NSYNC had sold 150 million records, 150 million, they were called to Vegas, hadn't been paid yet. They were called to Vegas to receive their first check from Lou Pearlman, and he gathered them together, and they each received a check for $25,000. So they tore their checks up then, and they proceeded to sue him for for freedom to get out of the contract. And of course, the contract was considered draconian. They were let out of the contract, and their first album after that was called No Strings Attached, meaning they were no longer puppets. And their hit was called Bye Bye Bye, which was saying goodbye to Lou Pearlman.
Good for them.
There you go.
Great.
That's more about boy band history than I'm sure anybody listening will
what?
ever want to know.
There's a lesson in that. Read your contracts.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But actually, not a bad classy way to say screw you.
Yeah. You get their biggest hit out of it.
What is the saying? Success is the best revenge.
Yes. Well, they certainly accomplished that.
Absolutely, man.
But
you've had such an amazing training program. I remember in the beginning of the first class I took with you for the audition technique. It's a 10-week program for those listening. You talked a little bit about a brief background on your training, and it's just amazing. You got to go to England and train, because I feel like England is the mecca, if you will, for acting training. I don't know if you...
That was an extraordinary experience. Yeah, it was a place called the British American Drama Academy. My teachers were Brian Cox, Jeremy Irons, Mariah Aitken, amazing people. This actually, my favorite teacher was this guy named Paul Daneman, who was in John Gielgud's acting company when he was a kid. And the English have a great storytelling tradition. The way they pass down their craft often is through storytelling, which is something that I love. I'm a storyteller, I'm a writer, and so Paul would tell me just tremendous stories about the theater. And he also he demystified acting in a way that was necessary for me. I had come from in grad school. I went to grad school at UCLA, and it was very steeped in Inside Out, Strasberg method kind of acting, and it considered anything that you do from the outside in taboo. Like it was sacrilegious to do anything that way. And Paul, having been a professional and on stage many, many years, knew that there were practical concerns that you could not address with the method. For example, we were doing a scene from it was a Shakespeare scene. I don't remember which play, but I had one line in the scene, and it was spoken on the opposite end of the stage from the person who spoke the preceding line. So I would say to him, by the time the audience is looking at me, I've already said the line. No one gets to see me. And he taught me how to, he told me the story about this actor who had the same thing happen. So he took a cup and he took a spoon, and before he said his line, he took the spoon from his right hand, he tossed it in the air, the spoon landed in the cup, it made a sound, and then the audience looked at him, and then he could say the line. Now that is taboo according to the method, but that's something that you learn. How do you get the audience's attention before you say your line if the audience is riveted over to at the other side of the stage? And
well, that's an interesting thing for me. Like there's so many times where I've come across, especially out here in LA, some acting schools, not all, are like, this is the best method. This is the way to do things. This is the way to do things. And I don't know if you disagree with me or agree with me or whatnot, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I think it's so important to learn everything, and try to be your own filter, see what works for you when. And I don't know, what do you think? Because you teach your own class, and I like your class. I like what you're teaching in the class. What do you think?
I don't subscribe to one particular dogma, and I don't think any great professional does either. If you look at a surgeon, the best surgeons are always reading up on what the latest is in their fields. If you look, I use sports analogies a lot because I'm a huge sports fan, and then they're helpful. If you look at Clayton Kershaw, he's got a very unorthodox style of pitching. It shouldn't work. If he listened to the people who just adhered to this strict style of delivering a baseball to the plate, Clayton Kershaw would have been discouraged from that wind-up and delivery. But he found his own way, and that's what actors have to do too. You have to chart your own course. You have to find your own road to a great performance, to a great methodology of working.
I like that. Chart your own course. I really like that.
Well, acting in particular is about accessing what is individual about you, the most Jordan and the most Wissam you can bring. Otherwise, you nullify the advantage you have in playing a role. The only advantage you have, Jordan, is that no one else is Jordan Burbank. Except there may be someone in the previous Burbank generations that was Jordan Burbank, but I don't think so.
Jonathan Van Nuys. I have my eyes on him.
Jordan Van Nuys.
Jordan Van Nuys, yeah. So to not harness that is doing yourself a disadvantage, and that's if I have any methodology, it is that it's harnessing the most of your own essence that you can, in order that when you walk in the room in 3 seconds, we know who Wissam is and we know who Jordan is.
Right. And back to the status thing, I loved what you say. Come into the audition room with your version of of a 10, like
Yeah.
Sam's version of a 10. Always walk into that room like that. I'm like, yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Well, that's the question. Why wouldn't you? I mean, if you think about it, it's like any other job interview. The person who you're auditioning for, they want to feel comfortable. They want to feel like they're making the comfortable choice. Not only is this person able to play the role the best of anyone I've seen today, but I want to work with them. They have an energy that makes me want to be around them. Mm-hmm. And that's why I teach, disregarding the whole notion that it's some kind of test, that you're being tested. I try to help you to disavow that notion, so that instead of feeling like this is an obstacle I have to overcome in order to get the job, I tell people that this is you already having the job, playing the role on the first day. This is how you're going to do it the first day. So it's a collaboration. So instead of putting those people on a pedestal, they're collaborators with you, and they want that. They need as much help. There's no producer or director or writer who doesn't think he needs as much help blessing this project as he can possibly get. And you contributing, collaborating to make it so helps that person or those people.
That's a great mindset to have. And I think it's so difficult. This is what happens when you record 3 episodes in a day. It's so difficult for a lot of actors, it's that classic term of, you get in your head too much. You get in that negative headspace and things start taking over. You said something earlier about you don't have any particular dogma you assign yourself to in terms of acting. And it just made me think of a Bruce Lee quote that says, the highest art is no art. The highest form is no form. And about his martial arts style is all about being water, being fluid.
Right.
And, water goes in a teapot, it's the teapot.
Uh-huh.
Water goes in a cup, it's the cup.
Yeah. Well, that's an amazing analogy for acting. That's an amazing a metaphor for the way you act too. Because when I may have said this in class already, but the whole 10 weeks is geared towards preparing you so well that when you're done, you forget all the preparation because it's in you now. There's nobody I work with who doesn't come out of a session or a class incredibly well prepared to audition. But the difference then between where they are and where they need to be to get the role is not playing it, but owning it. So the work that people always have to do when they leave me is to go from having perfected it to just putting it away and owning it. Mm. So they're not playing at it. They're just being it.
I just love that, man. It's great. How many classes do you teach? You're primarily a writer, but you also coach, and this audition course is every 10 weeks. You have a new one that comes out.
Yeah, I only teach one course. I'm not. Most of my work is as an acting coach privately, and when I began teaching is just kind of an offshoot from coaching, and I taught for like about 2.5 years before I felt like I wasn't really offering anything that I didn't think you could get other places. And so I really began searching for how I wanted to, what specifically I had to say that was valuable. And because a lot of my work is done in coaching, getting people prepared for auditions, unbeknownst to myself, I had actually come up with a way of doing things that I felt worked. Not that right. You don't beg, borrow, or steal from any discipline to do it, but I do have suggestions for approaching the whole drill of auditioning.
Right. What do you do in your spare time? I know, like, that's such a silly question, but like, I'm really curious to know, because do you continuously train right now? I mean, you've had a lot of training.
Well,
and learning.
As an acting coach, yeah, I'm always reading. Yeah, I'm really steeped in storytelling. So I'm reading a Marlon Brando biography now. So I'm.
Can I ask why? I know that I'm really curious to know why are you steeped in storytelling? Where did that come from?
I don't know. Always been a storyteller, and as an actor, you're always telling a story. You're telling a story, and I tell all actors, everything that you do has a beginning and middle and end, and figure out what that is, and figure out how you're telling that story. And you're telling that story from your character's perspective, which is hugely important to look at it that way. There's an old Speaking of stories, there's an old English story about two actors that meet on the street in England, and one of them says to the other, "What are you working on now?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm doing a play about a grave robber that meets a prince." Now he's talking about Hamlet, but he's talking about a grave digger. But he's talking about the grave digger because from his perspective, it's not a story about Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark. It's a story about the grave digger. He can only tell it from his perspective, so when he comes on stage, his role is the most important. Wow. What he does, because that's the life that he's living on that stage.
I like that a lot.
So that's, but storytelling it, from the beginning of time is how we've passed along our ideas. So anybody who's involved in the creative arts, movies or television or stage or rock and roll or hip hop, they're storytellers.
It's crazy how it's evolved over the years, especially with this, I know we've talked about it 1,000 times on the show, but like the internet and just like social media and like Vine and Instagram, where you have on Vine 6-second videos and on Instagram 15-second videos, people are creating stories with beginning, middle, and ends in a 6-second video. And you're like, wow.
Vine is storytelling for people that need to see things 5 and 6 times before they get the idea.
Yeah. So network. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And network executives these days have to be steeped in Vine.
Yeah. But there's actually some really artsy and really cool Vines. I got to show you some of them. One of them is Hooked on Phonics. And if you ever see their videos, it's like, oh, these are exactly what me trying to remember my dreams looks like. It's bizarre, but it's freaking cool.
I'm sure like any form, I'm sure that there's incredible stuff being done. But I was having this conversation the other day with someone. I had a long text exchange with someone that I was very close to. And at the end of the text exchange, I was quite sure that neither of us had imparted what we wanted to with the other. And I realized that I don't use emoticons enough, because emoticons, they help the person distinguish tone.
Yeah.
And so I was having this conversation afterwards that said, eventually we will no longer use language. We'll be back to hieroglyphics.
I like that. That's kind of a weird
but it's the way we're heading.
Yeah.
I don't like. I look at my niece's texts, and they're full of very specific emoticons.
Yeah, I love. There's what's that show? The Kimmy Schmidt, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. There's this wonderful scene. I think it's hilarious because it's just like the two girls walking down the street, and you can tell it's a Tina Fey perspective, but it's just like they're walking next to each other. And they're like, cat, sad face, shoes. And they're literally like voiceovering the emoticons. They're like,
right.
Oh, totally. Like, like waterfall, like banana. Like, and they're just like having a conversation that way. I'm like, that's pretty much, I don't understand it. I can't do that.
Well, you and we reply back to each other in GIFs.
I just love the breaded shrimp emoticon. I don't know why they have it, but I just send it to everybody.
Breaded shrimp, yeah.
But yeah, I just send GIFs back and forth to just say how we feel.
That's great. I've got one with a guy's head on fire, which is actually very, very useful for me, because when anybody sends me a bunch of emoticons, that's what my brain does.
I'm gonna start texting you like reaction GIFs then.
Yeah,
just randomly.
You'll see my head on fire.
I'm gonna write scripts in emoticon. That's all the language.
Well, you said that's not far off.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I hope not.
That's not far off. I mean, people are putting things in scripts right now that have never been before.
Like what?
Well, okay. So in our script that's coming up, we have a link to the video of the song. So you get there, you want to see what the song sounds like. You click the link and you go hear the song.
Oh wow!
I want to see a passionate scene being like, angry face, teardrop.
Well, check out Vine. Some Vine videos have
that.
I
believe. Yeah.
With we're already running out of time. You were in Jack and Jill, right? The TV series. This was a little bit ago, right?
Yeah.
So you acted for a while.
Oh no, I wasn't. Yeah, I was. In fact, I quit acting when I was on Jack and Jill. I was like on a TV series, and I discovered, okay, I got to where I wanted to get. Not that was the pinnacle, but it was, I enjoyed the show. I thought it was it's incredibly well written, created by Randy Mayhem Singer, who wrote Mrs. Doubtfire. And this is what I had aspired to. And I thought, wow, I would stand on my mark and look around, and I was interested in almost everything else around me except standing on my market and saying my lines.
Yeah.
So I knew, and I tell actors this too, is that if that's the case, you're dead as an actor. Because if you don't have to live for doing that one thing, there's plenty of other people who do.
Yeah. But that's a pretty brave thing, I was going to say, where you can like consciously go, you know what? I'm going to end this chapter and start a new one. I don't know. That's really brave to me. I couldn't imagine doing that with acting right now.
Well, as an artist, you always have to be honest with yourself. Otherwise, you're not gonna. There's no good art then. You know, I mean, you want to again going back to teasing the essence out of you. That's what you want.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
What makes a good student?
Just someone who's like a sponge, you know, who wants to absorb everything there is to absorb.
Because I'm sure you've encountered not the most ideal of students in your classes, right?
I've been really fortunate with my classes. You know,
that's great.
There's people that are more resistant to learning than other people are, and that probably has to do with what's happened to you in your past. Mm-hmm. But you know, I used to be pretty resistant. Like I remember, when I was in grad school at UCLA, I did this play called Winterset with George Schaefer, who at that point had won more DGA. I say this because of the way I treated him. Had won more DGA awards than any other director in history. And so we were doing this play, and every night he'd sit and give us notes, you know. And I'd get a note, which, you know, pretty simple note maybe, like I can't hear you at that point or something like that, and I'd defend what I did. You know,
it's a common actor thing to do.
Yeah, it's very common.
They're very common.
And finally, this wonderful English actor named Bill Glover leaned over to me and he said, you know, it doesn't cost you anything to take the note tonight and come back and argue with it tomorrow night. And I had a huge epiphany, which is that's true. And now, you know, I apply it to writing now. It doesn't matter to me where the good idea comes from because my name's going to be on the script at the end of the day. So I'll take any good ideas you got and I'll put them into the script and it's still my name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's a different way of looking at things. Those people no one's trying to, by giving you a note, is rarely are they trying to tear you down. They're trying to, you know, if they're involved in the creative process with you, they're trying to be helpful. And yes, it hurts our ego to hear that we didn't do something perfectly, of course, but
good.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Like, I don't know. I've gotten to a point where it's like, if I'm not doing something right, please, for the love of God, tell me.
Yeah, well, that's a good place to be.
I'm tired of people like blowing smoke up people's asses, especially in like acting classes or whatever, and they're not being blunt with them. I'm like, because not every single acting class I've gone out here in LA has been like that, but there have been a handful where I'm like, come on. There's no way that's helping the person. That was not, I don't like to say that was not good, but there was something that rang untruthful in those moments or something. You can't tell them that was great and then that's it. Because then it's like whenever you give me that compliment, I don't believe you.
Right. Well, I the same thing that we were just talking about in terms of a good idea can come from anywhere. I like you guys in class to tell me what's not working for you. You know, I mean, that's a collaboration too. I need to know I want to be looking out at your eyes and going that you are getting what I'm saying. And if you're not, I want to know what's not working and why, you know, so you know, having been there, that I frequently ask any questions and anything is that, you know, there's no dumb questions. So
it's very generous of you.
No, I learned too. It's selfish.
Yeah. No, it's, like you said, it's a collaborative process.
Yeah.
That's so nice. We're all a team, guys.
And also, I mean, you know, it makes it more fun. I mean, the whole idea is that, you know, I'm not the person in class that's beyond learning. I'm learning too. I'm learning as I'm watching you guys. You know.
I was so lucky. In my college, University of Tulsa, there was an acting teacher there. She was the primary acting teacher. Her name was Lisa Wilson. She had a lot of voice training and stuff like that. And before going into her class, I remember everybody saying like, "Oh, she's mean. Oh, she is super mean. You better be ready. Be ready." And I was like, "Oh God!" Like, you know, you're like a freshman, and you're like, "Ugh, this is not going to be fun." And then you get in there, and it's intense, yeah. But then you realize, oh, she's being mean to the people who aren't doing their work. Gotcha. All right, that's fair.
What is fair? That's a waste of everybody's time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And that's something I actually get passionate about. You're an actor. If you're not going to work, do your homework, if you will, for class. I'm hitting the mic. I'm like so angry. No, but like if you're not going to do your work in class, what are you going to do the work for?
Right. Well, in this town, there's a lot of people, you see a lot of people. There's a lot of people who are, they say that they're committed to being an actor.
Yeah.
But in their hearts and minds, they haven't really committed to being an actor yet.
Right.
Because you would apply the same work ethic that you would apply to being a brain surgeon. I mean, really, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, you think brain surgeons don't do their homework?
Well, they have to. I mean, they and that's the difference between any other discipline in acting is that you're self-monitored as an actor. Oh. No one's holding you to the fire saying you've got to do this homework in order to do well in this audition. You're screwing yourself if you don't.
That's where discipline comes into play.
Oh, discipline's hard. I mean, I'm a writer. Believe me, I know discipline is torturous. I've played more half-hour sessions of bold poker with my writing partner in the last 2.5 years writing this script than I care to admit.
Wait, what? Bowl poker?
Yeah. We got this app that you can you literally it plays poker on the you each put it on your iPhone, and then the hand is played on the screen, and you can look at your hands electronically. And yeah, I'd say that it's probably 68% writing and 32% bold poker.
Love it.
Oh, Gary, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, it was my pleasure. It was really fun. You guys are great.
Oh,
really had a good time.
I love having people, teachers such as yourself, come on the show. It's for me, it's the funnest episodes sometimes. So sometimes, no, I'm kidding. Sometimes it's fun. No, I'm kidding. What's up, Jordan?
No, nothing.
You get it?
Do you have any last minute before you'd have to walk out the door acting advice?
Yes, www.theactingguru.com. That's where you can find out any information that you need to find out. And by the way, the Acting Guru was originally meant to be ironic because there's no such thing as a guru, of course. And I especially don't subscribe to anyone. Well, I mean, it's like I say, I take pieces of everything, and I am not by any means the ultimate expert. But because the irony wasn't immediately perceived, I switched the site to be kind of a resource for actors that doesn't just involve me, but it involves you can go there and there's all kinds of articles and news and suggestions that don't just come from me, but come from my having culled years and years of expertise on acting from other people.
Well, that's the whole reason I signed up for your class, Gary.
My website?
Yeah, it's the Acting Guru. I was like, all right.
Oh, because I know everything? Yes, come to me, my child, and I will direct you.
A little fun fact, Gary, did you know it's shorter to say World Wide Web?
Hashtag Worldwide Dead, because you have to stop saying that.
I'm not going to stop saying it.
It's shorter to say World Wide Web than the www.
Think how many syllables?
World Wide Web, www. Oh, wow, that's true.
3 weeks that you've talked.
I don't care if it's 3 weeks. I'm starting the trend.
But World Wide Web sounds like you must spell it out in order to get there.
It's not a trend if you don't have to type it into a search engine anymore.
Oh, you don't even have to type in W. You see, that shows where I'm from. Theactingguru.com. Yeah. I don't. Okay, well, you'll edit that out.
I'm 15 years late. Damn it.
Yeah. Well, we all have Al Gore to thank for those bad habits.
Well, at least he invented the internet, so that's
true.
Very relieving.
Let's just get political, guys. Let's not go back.
I met Al Gore once. He's a swell guy.
Oh yeah,
he's really a cool guy. Yeah, very charismatic in person. Shockingly. He could have used me during the campaign. I would have helped a great deal on getting that message out to a worldwide web audience.
See what I started? There you go. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with Kiff VandenHeuvel, right?
What? Yeah, VandenHeuvel.
VandenHeuvel. I'm so proud of myself I pronounced the last name correctly.
You'll stop saying www.
I will not stop saying www.
You know what it is? It's an inconvenient truth.
We'll be right back.
Good callback.
Put a flavored condom on your head because your mind is about to get blown.
High school is over.
Blackout party at the beach, bitches! You're legit popular.
Maddie f***ing McKevin.
You have to tell her.
I still want to be with you. You still want to be with me?
Welcome to the Enchanted Fantasy Prom. Be sure to sign up for the raffle. You could win a rainbow.
Awkward. Season 5 premiering August 31st at 9/8 Central. Only on MTV.
And we are back, just like that. Fast. Super fast.
Wow. Flint. No music in, nothing. You're just back. It's instant.
It's instant. That's the way we do it. You can't stop, won't stop. Get it.
Bam! Pop! Boom! I love it.
Kiff VandenHeuvel?
Exactly right. Well done. Wow. That very few people pronounce that straight out the gate. Exactly
very
right.
Few people.
It's like we Sam Quiche.
There you go.
Everyone's always like, my favorite moment is like, I was talking to my dad after I met Wee Sam a few times. We were hanging out. He's like, I was like, oh yeah. And then Wee Sam came into this. My dad didn't hear me right. He's like, what's a Wee Sam?
What's Wee Sam and why are you guys having quiche?
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Kiff is an actor, VO artist, teacher at Second City, podcast host of All Over Voiceover. Correct?
All Over Voiceover. That's right.
Great. It's a brand new podcast.
Brand new podcast. We are 3 episodes are live right now, right here on Global Voice Broadcasting or GVB Studios.com under the All Over Voiceover things. We're also on Stitcher and iTunes under All Over Voiceover. And we're on Twitter and Facebook at All Over VO.
I listened to your last episode. I like it.
Oh, with GK.
Yeah.
Great. I'm glad. She was wonderful.
Yes. I think it's another resource for any type of actor or artist to listen to. It would be great, especially voiceover.
I hope so. I feel like that's really the reason I wanted to do it, was just to have another conversation out there that isn't necessarily with the biggest names in the industry and tell us about your process. I want to talk to the people who are in the trenches day to day, grinding our way out, trying to find a way to make a living and certainly people who are without a doubt fantastic voiceover artists, but there are literally thousands of fantastic voiceover artists all over the place. And I feel like this is a great opportunity for us to talk about process and encourage people who are interested in pursuing it, and let them know that they can do it right there where they're from. I mean, I told you before the camera started rolling, I started in Toledo, Ohio, doing on-hold messaging for a company, and then, a couple regional spots, and you just, you slowly build. But it's just like any other part of your acting world, whether you start in a school play or writing something or just acting out in front of kids on the playground,
So how long have you been out in LA?
I've been in LA when we moved out here in 2011. So I was in Chicago from 2000, when did we have the baby? 2006 to 2000, about 5 years then. Oh, wow. We moved out. So we've been out. Well, LA, by LA terms, we're still still opening gift baskets.
Yeah. That's amazing. And you worked in Chicago a lot.
Quite a bit. Yeah. That was really where my voiceover career sort of took off in earnest. I mean, I had started elsewhere, but I got some big enough campaigns that not only I was able to qualify for health insurance, but got recognized and be able to bankroll and move out here.
You're famous.
Famous, yeah, for True TV.
Yeah, and Bioshock Infinite, right?
Yeah, I play Comstock in Bioshock Infinite, yes.
Any other, in Walking Dead, the game?
The video game Walking Dead, Season 2, Episode 2, House Divided. I play a character named Walter, yeah. Really great sort of dramatic.
I love that.
It was wonderful, yeah.
I ask? I love voiceover acting. That's like my dream of all dreams to finally hunker down.
Bunker works.
Spunker down.
Yeah, I'm gonna hunker down in a bunker.
It's spunker down.
Funker down. Why not funker down while you're at it? Just throw a consonant in front and you're good.
Do it someday. But one, I'm curious on on what your thoughts are for someone who just moved to LA or just wants to dive in deep into it, how you might get started, and also there's so many different avenues for voiceover acting. How do you specifically go about your finding your jobs and applying?
I teach an intro to voiceover at Second City. I teach improv and stuff over there, but I also teach an intro to voiceover class, and the whole point of that class too is to be look, voiceover is as vast as the film industry. You kind of ask yourself, what am I interested in? What do I like? If you're looking at film or TV, you're really it's either comedy or drama. And then, but within that, it's is it single cam or comedy? Is it multicam? Is it episodic? Is it sketch based? Is it impressions? Is it reality / prank show like Fameless is? Like, there's so many different avenues in terms of what it can be. Voiceover is the same way. Commercial, animation, video game, audiobook, on-hold messaging, promo, live event. Like my friend Melissa Disney live announces the Emmys. So the pressure of that. So all those different things, ultimately I feel like certain things are going to just intersect with your life. It's weird how things come to you. You might not expect it to be doing commercial work,
right?
But that's what gets sent to you. It often depends on who your agent is. It depends on what you've trained in. I think for someone who's beginning, I think the first thing you do is you go to Guitar Center or Amazon or whatever, and you get a cheap USB mic. You plug it into your computer and you play. Malcolm Gladwell's book about the outlier says you need Tipping Point, whatever book it was, where he says you need 10,000 hours to get professional.
Yeah.
You got to start. Just don't wait. Don't wait. Go buy a microphone, plug it into your computer, and hear how you sound. And then play with your voice. Don't worry about what job you're going to book. You can't be obsessed with that kind of stuff, because if you get good, if you get the skill sets to be able to read commercial reads, convincingly or well, with empathy or with a casual nature, or do you have a big booming voice, or do you have, are you lispy? What you just have to self-diagnose in a way of listening to yourself read and then compare it to what's out there and then figure out how can I compete.
We just had an acting teacher on here just right before you, Gary Marks.
Awesome.
And he said the exact same thing. You have to be honest with yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And, trust that you're doing the work. It's in your body. And then at some point, you just got to trust that it's there and forget about it.
That's right. You really, truly do. You have to spend time with the microphone, because the microphone is better than a mirror. The microphone tells you exactly what you sound like and where your plosives are and where your mouth is making noises in the back and all these other things so that you can clean those reads up.
Well, to apply that to just regular acting, if you will.
Yeah.
Whenever I do self-tape auditions.
Sure.
First couple times I've done them, I was like, oh, I did not know I'm doing that.
Change it up. It's so humbling, isn't it? When you do those self-tapes and then you're like, oh crap, this is what the casting directors have been seeing me do.
Or when I'm in college and the first time I put acted, I was doing a bunch of theater.
Yeah.
And then somebody taped me for the first time and we saw it in front of the class. And I was like,
oh no.
Oh my, somebody throw a rock at the screen, please, right now.
Or those, I feel you, but I there's also part of me that's like, not bad. All right, good. Because there is a flip side to that coin. There's things that you can look as an audience member of yourself objectively and be able to see, I like that moment, I like what I did. And that's also where self-direction begins. What choices did you make at that moment that work? Right. And how can I support that or build to it, or did that moment feel disconnected to something? I feel like that's why I think the most important thing to do is really just dive in and just record. Don't worry about, before you get a demo, don't go get a demo without getting some training. I mean, there's some wonderful teachers in Los Angeles. I studied with Nancy Wolfson, who I'm a huge fan of. I really, really love working with her. She's tough, but she's honest and gives you a really great feedback on your stuff. And not to mention, I'm sorry, because I saw the hand.
No. I got excited because I love hearing about tough teachers. Anyway, we'll talk about that. Continue. Sorry.
She's great. And she's got a website called Brain Tracks Audio. And she doesn't pay me a thing. Okay. I'm just telling you, she has 50, 60 podcasts up there that she's recorded of either lectures or pieces that she's recorded where she gives valuable training information about starting voiceover or about animation voiceover or whatever. BrainTracksAudio.com. I'm a huge Nancy Wolfson fan. I also love Pat Fraley. Pat Fraley is one of the best teachers I've ever worked with, period. He's amazing. He was the voice of Krang on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the old school. And in G.I. Joe, he was Ace. Like, he's Marshall Bravestar. He's been in the business for years. And he's a wonderful teacher. He wrote a curriculum for voiceover training. And he teaches frequently in Los Angeles, but also travels around the country, goes to Chicago. If you're in Chicago, like Deb Dotzer is amazing. She teaches at the Second City. I started the Second City voiceover program and then left. And Deb and Kathleen Andrade took it over. And they do a marvelous job introducing young people who are interested in voiceover into that world. And I think you can't replace, you can't go too far without having some good training. And there's some really good teachers out there. And just getting that helps you find out if, before you spend any money on buying a Sennheiser 416 or buying or soundproofing a closet or buying a whisper room for your house, find out if you're any good. Or more importantly than that, do you like it?
Yeah.
Because some people hate it.
You know what? That's an amazing way of going about it, and I totally respect it. I have a weird thing where if I want to do something like that, I don't know if this is right, but it works for me. When I was like, okay, I want to learn guitar.
Yeah.
I don't want to buy a dinky guitar. I want to force myself. I'm buying a really nice guitar. And I bought one that cost almost $1,000. And I got it for a little cheaper, but it was about $1,000 I've invested into, I guess, how to play guitar. And now I'm like, okay, I better
figure it out.
Yeah. I've invested this much money into it. I better. If I want to do archery, it's like, I don't want a dinky bow. And I didn't buy a dinky bow. I went and bought a really expensive longbow. And I'm like, I'm training at this until I'm good at it. I've invested the money. I don't have a lot of money, so I better figure this out.
That's an excellent point. I feel like the technology to do this has become more and more and more accessible and cost effective. You can go to Guitar Center and get a great microphone for $120 or less.
That's true. You don't have to spend
or you can just play on your iPhone. My buddy Fred Tatasciore has a little digital recorder he keeps with him in his car as he drives around LA creating voices. And this guy, he's been the Hulk for 9 years. He's the guy he's on just about every video game and every cartoon that you can imagine. He'd blush at me saying that, but it's true. He's on all kinds of stuff, and he is actively, I wonder if I played with my voice this way. Well, what's this character sound? Who's this guy? All this other stuff. So that when you're in an animation session or a video game session, more likely animation where you're in with a group of maybe 6 or 7 actors, and then there's a person who's like we would read as a co-star. They're not going to go find another guy to bring in. They're going to use their multi-talented stable of actors in there to give us a character who doesn't sound like anything else.
I started realizing that on Family Guy, especially when the first few seasons. I'm like, oh, that sounds like I know that character. That's Meg's character. Why is she doing this? I'm like, oh wow. And then I started really listening, and it's so layered, but you're like, okay, I know who's doing that voice.
You can pick out Harry Shearer on The Simpsons when he's doing other characters. You can hear Hank Azaria, and everyone knows that those guys are there, but there's also some dudes who are like in there doing like 5 or 6 small co-stars so that those guys don't have to carry that freight. It's the dude who just is like, get out of my car. And that's all they need. But it doesn't sound like Dan Castellaneta. You know what I mean?
And it happens on commercials for me sometimes too. Like an Allstate commercial or something. And I'm like, I know that actor. Like I'll just be in the kitchen or something. I'm like, who is that? I figured it out.
Oh, hey, that was Patrick Stewart talking about RCA. Exactly. But and the interesting thing is when you grow up hearing certain voices and then you go into the audition room and then you hear those voices and you had no idea who those people were. I had that in Chicago with 2 guys, with Dave Pasquazi and Kurt Nebig. Like you walk in there and sit down and they start talking and you're like, holy crap, I've heard that guy on the radio for 10 years. That's so wild. And you feel like you have this relationship with them because of that. And you don't. But, it's still kind of like, you got me through college talking about McDonald's when you were talking about it,
That's awesome.
You know what I love? I feel like now I want to do voiceover because I've always told people like, oh yeah, I'm in my car and I'm driving to work and I'm always doing like 10, 15 different voices and I'm like, I feel like I'm a crazy person. Like I just feel like I'll like yell at people in the car next to me or something. Like not actually put down the window, but just like creatively create something. But I'm like, I guess I should just buy a recorder and go do that.
Why not? I mean, at the very least, I had one student back in Chicago who took my intro to voiceover class, and he was like, I can't tell you how much I want to thank you for this class. I hate doing voiceover. I never want to do it again. And your class, not that you ran me off of it, you showed me, you gave me a taste rather than going to produce a demo reel. And he's like, I don't enjoy this type of work. I don't like how I sound, whatever it is, and some people really flourish and want to explore it and want to go do like, maybe they thought that animation was their bag, but in reality, they're so much more interested in sitting in their basement and doing 15 hours on an audiobook. And that is just as satisfying, if not more so.
I love that, man.
It's such an expansive, like community. Like you think about like when you think of film and television and you think of voiceover, you can lump it into the same category, but at the same time, there's so many avenues outside of it.
Yes.
That it's just like, it's such an expansive, probably very lucrative market too.
It can be. And it can be a real like not like it totally varies. But like for example, with audiobooks, there is something called the Audiobook Creation Exchange called acx.com, and if someone is interested in doing audiobooks, it is a great place to start because you can start today. You can create a profile and record some samples of some books and then chase auditions on there. And you can do either non-union or union, depending on what your status is. They have an after contract that they allow you to get stuff and you can bid on jobs. They even have what ACX has is stipend titles. So certain books, for example, that would be a hard sell for someone to be like, yeah, I want to read this really heavy political piece. They'll give the narrator an additional stipend of $100 per finished hour to read that book. Wow. So what I would do on ACX is I would end up producing myself. I would pitch myself as a producer and as the narrator. So I would record everything in my house, then go back and re-edit everything to clean it up and then post it. And then I could buy like a royalty-free track off of iTunes for 99 cents. So I could use it. And that would be the music for the book to get me in and out, some sound effects here and there, and then work on narration. I swear to God, man, I did like 9 or 10 books that way. And some books have sold maybe 8 copies. And some books have sold well into the hundreds. Some selling well into the thousands for other people. So like the way it's set up is you can do a royalty share where basically you do it on spec. I'm going to narrate your book. You're not going to pay me anything up front. ACX will give me $100 a finished hour, so at least I'm a little bit compensated. I might make $1,000. But every time that book sells, the author and the narrator split the royalties.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So like a couple books I've done, the historical romance books, I did 2 books for Catherine Levesque, and they're really fun, like historical romance. So I'm like, Jacques de Velt, and I'm speaking this sort of Liam Neeson dialect the whole time, and narrating in a British accent and her heaving bosom, that sort of stuff.
Wow.
And it was really, really fun. And it's like 12 different distinct character voices and telling the story. And her books sell well and people enjoy them and people enjoy listening to them. And it's a wonderful experience.
Speaking of dialects.
Yes.
And I'm sure I was lucky enough to take an amazing dialects course in college.
Great. Yeah.
And we learned the phonetic alphabet, which was the hardest thing in my life to do.
I don't know that I've ever learned the phonetic alphabet. What's that? Now I got to freak. I got to go figure that out.
It's literally like the letter A. You can say it like a, or you know what I mean? Like so many different versions of the way you say it.
Yeah.
And then there are different ways of writing. The way you write is different from the way you write different from the way you write A. So whenever you're doing accents, you have to learn like the word, like let's say the sentence, this table is brown.
This table is brown.
Right. So it would be spelled phonetically different for the British accent than it would for the Jamaican.
This table is brown, or this table is brown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So all 3 of those are spelled differently. in the phonetic alphabet. So what that does is you're like, okay, now I know how to spell things out phonetically. Now I can hit any kind of dialect once I know what sounds are used in that dialect. And it's amazing, man. You should definitely check this out. And we can talk about it on your podcast if you want.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'd be surprised how close two accents are that have nothing to do with each other. Like they're miles and miles and miles apart. You're like, oh, I'm Jamaican right now, but if I move it forward, I'm like
South African.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Which is one of the most difficult dialects, I think, to do. And now, the way I come to dialect is, I just like with music, man. I can't read music, so I play everything by ear.
It's for me, it's mostly by ear,
and it's all that too. Or it's just like, I think this sort of sounds pseudo-European.
But when I was able to do it, I wasn't able to do it well. My teacher, on the other hand, I could not believe it. She could just pick up those sounds. You're able to. It's like knowing computer code.
Yeah.
That's the only, like, you found the matrix and you're like, okay, great.
Wow.
And you're just like,
So then you find someone, then how can you translate something into phonetic alphabet? Like, once you know what the alphabet is, I guess you just decode it, right?
Oh yeah. So it's like for every vowel, for every consonant, there's different, it's bonkers, man.
That's wild.
It's bonkers. It's like, phonetic alphabet. It's the alphabet of sound. Yeah.
All right. I have a new obsession. After I beat Witcher 3, which I'm in the middle.
No, it's crazy.
Forever. Yeah.
It's a time suck.
What?
The Witcher 3. It's a game on Xbox One. It's great.
It's for PS4 too, right?
Yes.
I almost bought the game.
It's
Who are you in The Witcher?
I'm not in the game. I'm playing the character, and right now I'm trying to kill an ice giant on an island. And
is it good?
It's a great game. The voice acting is amazing. The motion capture, I can't say for sure that it's mocap, but it probably is. But the environments, the sound design, the entire thing is a marvelous, vast world, and it's really fun to play in. Really fun.
I'm a Call of Duty guy.
I feel you. Are you on Call of Duty 3, the new one?
Oh, not the new one. I just do campaign mode. I don't play online.
Oh, really?
Those people are way too good.
Yeah,
I don't find it enjoyable.
I need to get on Halo 5. Like I'm just catching up because I haven't played Halo in forever.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to get there, but like the way that the graphics and everything look for like Nathan Fillion in the game looks just like him.
Yeah,
it's so creepy.
Well,
yeah.
Why I love campaign mode in Call of Duty?
Yeah,
it's a movie.
It is,
and it's like a real life. You're immersed in it. I got so sad. I get emotional playing some of these games.
They're very well performed. The actors who are doing it do such a marvelous job, just like you would on a feature. And it makes me very, very proud to be a part of that community, because these guys, it's one thing to get on stage and connect to another actor. Mm-hmm. It's another thing to get on set and block out all the C-stands and all the grip equipment and all the stop and start and the multiple takes on it. It's another thing to go into an empty room in Burbank with one headphone on and then a monitor up and a camera on your face and then to have an emotional moment by yourself with a microphone at this proximity. That discipline of creating that entire world in that moment so that the audience has an emotional reaction. That's to me is acting on the guy who owns my agency, Paul Doherty. I'm at CESD. He says acting and voiceover acting is like acting on the head of a pin, in that you're really in this tiny little space. And like when we did Walking Dead, my character goes through this full emotional journey of discovery. I don't want to give any spoilers out, right. But like it was a really satisfying couple of sessions. And I was very blessed that they had recorded some of the other actors so they would play the line that Melissa Hutchins would say as Clementine would say, because most of my scenes were with her. So it'd be able to have this back and forth and react sort of emotionally to the content, because so often the scripts that you get are not traditional scripts the way you would expect to see them. It's a spreadsheet. So for video games anyway, you just get sell, and then sell here with a description is like angry, upset, nervous, fear. That's it. So to build that life is challenging.
I don't know if I know this sounds kind of weird. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I kind of like that though.
Awesome.
You know what I'm talking about? Not the terms of not getting enough information, but that it's just
the challenge.
But it's also like you're in this box, right?
Yeah.
And you can't really see. A lot of times I haven't been able to see like who's talking, so they're kind of dimly lit.
Yep.
I have this tiny little light, and I'm just like, great.
Yeah.
This is just me and this character or whatever it is. I'm like, okay, I'm in my imagination right now. Oh, I get goosebumps thinking about it. I'm getting like acting, like, I don't know, like, chills thinking about it because I'm like, great. Because I love doing this thing where I'm just by myself in my room and I just start picking up old plays and just reading. And
oh, that's great.
Because then it's like a really private moment. It's like a private performance for myself.
Throw this into the mix just as an exercise for yourself for character.
Yeah.
Go to the comic book store and pick up like 5 or 6 comics that you've never read that you have no experience with, and then do those.
Ooh.
And then use the reference of the character drawings and that kind of stuff to inspire your vocal choices and see where that takes you as practice for animation and video game work.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Doing that. And then our listeners, if you do that, please send us a video maybe of it.
Seriously.
And tag us or tell us, we would love to see it.
Check it out. I think that it's just from a standpoint of the practice element and giving yourself something to do. And it's like, I just think it's a fun exercise that I stumbled across that is really helpful.
The first 3 people to send us a video of them doing that, we're going to give away an acting book to them. What do you say?
That's great.
Good idea.
Free acting book.
How does that sound, listener? Huh?
Post it on
the gauntlet has been dropped.
Twitter. Send it to our Twitter account.
Yeah, send it to our Twitter account,
Hashtag
Nikki.
Or whatever.
Hashtag comic acting? Comic voiceover? What do you think?
Hashtag, well, if they take...
Go ahead, Nikki.
Comic book challenge.
Comic book
challenge.
That's how you run social media.
Comic book challenge.
There you go. And hashtag and tag all over voiceover, all over VO in it as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
All over VO. I want to see what you guys come up with.
That's great.
Awesome.
It's very exciting.
All over VO. Yeah, man.
Just in time for Christmas.
Just in time for Christmas. The acting book to give to yourself.
There you go. Kiff, man, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you had a good time.
I had a wonderful time. You guys are awesome.
Are you sure?
I want to make sure you're happy. It's our holiday GBB crossover.
Oh, yeah. Gabe? I don't know why I think you're going to hear us right now.
He's like our guardian angel somewhere. He's up
somewhere.
He's listening in.
Oh, man. Kiff, again, if they want to find you on Twitter, and where can they find your podcast?
They can find my podcast at gvbstudios.com /allovervoiceover.
Cool.
You can find my podcast on iTunes at All Over Voiceover and on Stitcher.
Awesome.
All Over Voiceover. Follow me on Twitter at AllOverVO or at KiffVH, KIFFVH.
Awesome.
My website is kiffvh.com. And look for me in Batman vs. Superman next year on camera.
Say what?
Yeah.
Super exciting.
Yeah, so look for that.
Jason would have loved to meet you.
God, right?
Oh, man.
We just had
last episode.
Yeah.
He's what is it?
Jawin. He has Jawin is a YouTube channel, and he's a comic book
awesome.
or all geek related talk show host.
DC.
Universe. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. DC Universe rules. Love it.
Well, Jordan, what?
I don't know how I found myself here today, but I'm really happy I came in.
Me too. I'm always happy that you're here. You're at Jordan Burbank 7, correct?
Jordan Burbank 7.
Nikki 592, our wonderful social media czar and sound engineer. We love having you here.
She does it all.
Thumbs up. She's looking great today.
Styling.
Okay, that's it.
She's literally keeping the boat afloat. Yeah.
Big thanks to GVB Studios, Gabe. Thanks for everything you do for the show.
Amen.
A big thanks to our listeners. Remember, hashtag comic book challenge. Send us a video of yourself doing where you get a comic book and you're practicing your voiceover stuff on there.
Yeah, try different voices for the different characters and see what you find. Let the image inspire the voice that you give the character.
Show us what the comic strip is, and then you can do it on your phone. There's no excuse now.
Seriously. We'll even accept that really awful, long version of the phone videos. We'll accept that. We'll take it.
Please do landscape. Please. It's the future. Remember, hashtag comic book challenge. Thank you again to our listeners for all your questions, for listening, for all your support. We're on Patreon as well. Give us a little bit more if you feel like it a month, and we'll be giving you a lot more in return. All the perks are listed on the website. simple cup of coffee can get you a lot, I feel. Correct, Jordan?
Yes, absolutely. What do you mean? A cup of coffee? Like they're going to buy us a cup of coffee?
No, like what it costs to get a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Or you could buy us coffee. We'll accept that too. Just email us at actorsanonymouspodcast@gmail.com and I will give you the address.
And they can have coffee delivered?
Just coffee. Yeah.
I'd prefer check. And you can find me at WeSamKish. And always remember to listen, think, and then talk.